Ion Hazzikostas comes back swinging, cutting any hope for account-wide essences, slashing any form of 835 and confirming that no Warforging, no Titan Forging and no corruption will be on items in Shadowlands. We dive into all that plus all the class changes in 8.3, so sit tight for fresh, brand new on cooldown, your weekly WoW news show. Alright boys, time to cut the bullshit and get real for a minute or two here. You probably know that Ion Hazzikostas had an interview recently with the Millennium website and a lot of new and important information was shared. Now, if you've been watching us for a while now, know that we praise Blizzard for every right move they make for WoW, but we also voice out our feedback and point out the wrong moves. And man, do you have a wrong move to chew on today. So the game director basically confirmed that, and I quote, account-wide essences are not on the table for Visions of N'Zoth. His reasoning for this is that the essences are not like a core mechanic of the game that would make sense to become account-wide, like unlocking world quests or the Siege of Borealis dungeons. Essences are more comparable to trinkets and other gear that you would not normally have account-bound. So right now, after so many goddamn episodes where I personally created a world of reasons and motives and premises for them to gradually make essences account-wide, I will play a little clip that will portray my exact reaction after reading this bullshit.
What the fucking mutt? You fucking piece of shit!
Yeah. Come on. Let him go.
And reroll this fucking button that the fake old tough guy. You motherfucker.
Come on.
Fuck, kick that motherfucker here.
Listen, nobody likes being negative around here. And trust me, this is not about being negative or feeding off of the drama, but the reasoning is beyond ridiculous, and he contradicts himself with the player power cannot be account-wide theory. I mean, wasn't the artifact weapon core power 2-man? Remember 735 and the artifact knowledge? How about the goddamn legendaries? They were all super easy to do and get in the last patches of Legion exactly for people playing alts or people joining the game late. How can you sit there and tell me that essences, who were nothing more than a band-aid system created to fix another system, the Azerite Trades, which he knows they fucked up, how does this not make sense to be as easily as possible to obtain by now? Or not now, but later down the patch. I agree that players had enough time to find the essences they needed in 8.2, and I agree that having them out there is part of the core progression in a sea of incentives to make an MMO what it is. But let's not forget some of the requirements for these essences like Blood of the Enemy and Condensed Life Force. One is a ridiculous amount of grind, and the other is gated by a heroic raid. A heroic raid which no one will do as of now. BFA had such poor class design that you basically were pushed to try new classes and create alts, which is a good thing in a weird way. Surely by now you know your players' behaviors in a nutshell. Why the punishment, man? Why? The game is really important to you, I'm presuming, as it is to me, and both me and you want WoW to be better, to be good, but man, sometimes I really doubt they are in the right mindset when taking these poor decisions. A lot of people left during BFA. The expansion had a lot of issues, but there are a handful of people around the world and from our community too who at least stuck around no matter what. And we enjoy Mythic Plus and we enjoyed the new A3 content and we cannot wait for the new raid, but shit like this really triggers me the wrong way. In my opinion, it's plain stubbornness from their part, and I'm really sad because for every positive thing they do, they mess up another 5. Sorry for the rant, had to let it out, and let's all hope we never have to deal with this shit again in Shadowlands.
In the same interview Marcelian just covered, we have received more info about the future of WoW as far as BFA is concerned and the release of Shadowlands. Similar to how Ian put it, there will be no 8.3.5 patch, but there will be system tweaks, balancing hotfixes and stabilization updates for the game. Depending on what this will mean in practice, we could have one of two possible situations. Situation number 1 is where the updates and hotfixes are very minimal to optimize and put in more effort towards the Shadowlands beta. That could mean the beta will come sooner, the release of Shadowlands also sooner, although I doubt any of this will be affected by having or not having an 8.3.5. The main situation is that we will be stuck with the same patch for more than 6 to 8 months with no new content to play. Historically, this has been very detrimental to the sub numbers and player reception towards the general game. Remember Siege of Orgrimmar and the Hellfire patch in Warlords of Draenor? Both raid tiers that lasted for more than half a year. Blizzard could be trying to cut their losses at this point and focus more on Shadowlands. Situation number 2 is where the updates and hotfixes will include things like class balance, dungeon tuning, raid balance and such, to make the systems we are more or less stuck with until Shadowlands pre-patch more bearable. Personally, I think this is more likely to happen, and it would be a smarter move from the devs considering the amount of backlash they are receiving for the poor spec balance and the amount of publicity they made towards specs being remade, revamped, rebuilt or whatever in the Shadowlands expansion. Season 4 will be the longest yet. AWC and MDI haven't even started yet, and we already know the meta is imbalanced. Add to this the new layer of player power scaling, and we won't know who's going to be what in a few months. Since no new content will be released, as a player I would expect Blizzard to make changes like buffing blood decay in comparison to the other tanks, since there is no secret blood scales currently the worst out of all in the current content and all of the current content. And clearly this isn't the only issue. Let's not even get into PvP. But then again, I was pretty sure account-wide essences are inevitable, so the world is full of surprises.
8.3 is all friendly. Ooh.
Shut up, man.
MarcelianOnline guarantee. Alts will be better in 8.3.
Shut the fuck up, you overjacked Shrek wannabe. Go suck on a kiwi or something, fucking adding oil to the fire. Remember when we said that they are actively listening to players for feedback on the corruption system in order to take a decision on itemization for Shadowlands? Well, apparently the decision has been made, as you would understand it from the interview with Ion Hazzikostas, because when asked if the corruption system will be carried over into Shadowlands, Ion had this to say. Corruption is a system specific to Visions of N'Zoth, and there's a couple of reasons why we've gone with corruption in this update. But it's not a system we're planning on carrying forward directly into Shadowlands, no. We're going to learn a lot from how this plays out in terms of a world without Warforging and Titan Forging, and I can say that those systems won't be returning as players are accustomed to them in Shadowlands. Interesting wording here in the last sentence, as of course you should be excited that RNG is calming its tits in Shadowlands, but not returning as the players are accustomed to them is not saying they're not returning at all, and this is a direct mention to forging. So maybe they will return in the new expansion but work in a different way, and that isn't really something you wanted to hear, right? I think it's safe to say right now that a big majority of the WoW dev team is working on Shadowlands, just judging by how buggy 8.3 is and how they have no more plans for 8.3.5, and to be fair, this is the right move for them to just close the BFA chapter and get it right with the new expansion. Sure, for us as players, it's going to get boring fast, but quite acceptable when compared to other expansions. Last patch of MoP was more than a year, same as WoD, I think even more, and for Shadowlands now we are looking at somewhere around 6 to 7 months, as I predict a mid-October release for it. In the meanwhile, fix those goddamn bugs, Blizz!
And in today's comment of the day, we have MJ, and he said...
Wait, so how did you know essences are going to be account-wide in April?
Let's talk class changes. Yep. Second only to the corruption system, the classes have received the most changes in the 8.3 PTR, and judging by the lack of 8.3.5 and plausible prediction, these will not be the only changes throughout this season. We covered pretty much all of these in the last few months in our own cooldown episodes, but let's do a quick recap so you know what to expect from your favorite spec. Blood Death Knights have received a fix to Mark of Blood that would heal someone else for more than 5% of the casting DK's HP, which is no longer the case. Like, really? Mark of Blood? Really? Who even plays this? Maybe in PvP? Unholy has received a buff to Bursting Spores talent that will increase the heal absorb of Necrotic Strike, and an undocumented change to the talent that was absorbing 5% of the target's max health in healing as opposed to the supposed 4%. All will serve. The raid talent for Unholy has had its cast time and damage increased by 25%, making it overall the same, I suppose? Paladin has only received a nerf to the Holy Azurite trait Glimmer of Light, where the max targets it can be casted on friendlies or otherwise is 8, and the healing also reduced by 12%, which we can all agree was expected due to the overwhelming performance of the spec in raids. In Mythic Plus and PvP, it will not be affected as much, it seems. Elemental Shaman has had a fix to the Primal Elementalist talent, and Lightning Lasso nerfed to the damage it was dealing out, from 700% spell power to 630% spell power. Frost Mages have had a buff to Ice Lance for 20% extra damage due to their previous build, making it a damage loss to cast the skill because of how Mastery was scaling for the spec, and a few additional bug fixes to the spell interactions. Arcane Mage have had their hidden damage modifier Aura readjusted from a -9% damage alteration to a -1%, meaning they will do a little over 8% more overall damage, so yay for Arcane! Discipline and Shadow Priest have received multiple nerfs across the board, especially Discipline, who, similar to Holy Paladins, was overperforming in the last raid tier by a huge margin compared to all the rest. Same thing with Shadow Priest. These effects will indirectly affect the specs outside raiding as well, meaning M+ and Arenas. Mythic Plus was already a scene where they were struggling, so sorry dungeon runners, same with Shadow. Although decent, not the best in M+, so sorry again. With this being said, these would be massive nerfs if not for the new corruption system. It's very hard to tell how much these will negatively impact the spec once they add this extra layer of power scaling, so don't fret just yet. Affliction has received multiple changes to their first talent row, where picking Drain Soul would net you less damage than not picking any talent at all. Deathbolt was nerfed since it was overperforming the other two, while the latter were decently buffed. The buffs are not impressive at a first glance, so we will need to keep testing before knowing for sure. Balance and Resto Druids have been at the top of their game and as such nerfed as well. The balance nerf affects only multi-dotting and AoE, and even that will be impacted slightly. Resto Druids though will be tuned down in Mythic Plus as the king healer, but hurt more in raids where they were already really struggling to keep up. Monk is currently the most changed class, with all of its specs being addressed. Brewmasters have been hit hard in Mythic Plus area, where they were overperforming because of their design and a bug that was addressed way too late. For raids, they will still be kings as far as we can tell right now. Mistweavers, on the other hand, have received numerous buffs, and even with all of these, top players are not yet convinced that the spec in the high-end competitive scene will perform properly. Yet. I, for one, am very happy for the buffs, but dread them in PvP for now. Windwalkers have had their Sun Kick and Blackout Kick buffed by a decent amount, yet still seem to be underperforming in raids. In dungeons, they seem to be doing okay, since their main issue was single target damage, in PV at least. PvP though, they were doing just fine, and I still hate them. A lot. The rest of the specs have either had their tooltips addressed, some bugs fixed, or not touched at all. Hopefully we will see more tweaking over the course of the season.
So, 8.3 is live. It's not good, is it? I mean, it's good. There's a lot of good parts of it, but man, it's buggy as fuck.
It's buggy. I feel like it's one of those patches that will be really good if they can actually fix all the stuff. And you know what? I think Ian made that comments like, oh, we I think Belial covered it as well. It's like, oh, we took a little bit longer on the PTR to get everything ready, and it's not ready, man. It's like
it's said in the
you cannot say that and have so many bugs. And I think the biggest issue is like I've made a ticket. The GMs are overcrowded, man.
Of course.
I asked the ticket about an emissary. They answered a day later, man. Emissaries don't last for a long time. Like, and he told me to like keep making posts and put like submit bugs. Dude, I want my shit fixed, man.
I think you did it on stream, right?
I did it on stream, but I got the answer last night.
Oh Jesus, man! It's clear that this patch, I think it was really like tested out and tuned with the core concepts of it, but the actual little bits and pieces that players would experience when going in, like quest issues and item issues and shit like that wasn't tested, man. And this is surely an effect from the fact that basically their quality team was gone like last year.
Yeah,
they threw
surprise. I'm actually glad that this is happening because they need a fucking wake-up call, man.
I hope this is a wake-up call, and I hope, as much as I'm not trying to be super vulgar and express my pissed offness,
it's coming.
I wish Ian all the best. This is turning into a ranty video, but I cannot help it, man.
Yeah, no, it's fine. We don't do this very often, but this is probably okay because some people might think we're a little bit too positive all the time, that we're like kind of kissing Blizzard's ass sometimes. We are looking at the positive things.
True.
Yeah, it's not. We are looking at the positive things more often than not, but we do see like
when shit really gets on our nerves. I mean,
you can smell it.
It's fucking stinky, man. It stinks. It reeks. The fucking not cow shit. No, it's not bullshit. It's the Brutosaur thing that they go in the way. What's that called?
Long boy.
The long boy shit. That's how big this shit is. It stinks like that.
I think they're just being way too stubborn and they're gonna cave in because there's so much negative publicity that they can take at this point. Plus the new store mount ban.
No, shut up. I don't want to talk about it. That's enough negative. It's enough negative for today, okay? So let's go into the positive things like our Patreons. Like, guys, thank you so much for supporting us, even when we're a bit pissed off and ranty like today. Thank you so much. It means the world to us. And I do want to mention a special Patreon of ours, Arc Whisperer, who came back. Like, he did say he's going to come back, but hey, no strings attached. Nobody's putting a gun to anybody's face.
Yeah, Arc is actually a really cool dude. He was probably the second big Patreon that we had
after
about 8 months ago.
Yeah, somewhere in April or something. He popped
really,
in,
really long time ago, and he had some issues. He couldn't support us anymore, but he was always here, and now he came back. And dude, we really appreciate that you've actually kept us in your mind for such a long time.
It was cool to check him out. Like he also left a message. It was really cool.
And if you want to support us a little bit more, you can check the links down below the video. We have Patreons, we have Teespring, we have a lot of merch that you can check and get for you as well, and a lot more to come in the future. And you can also check us on stream. We stream 5 days a week. I was just trying to count them, man. It's not.
Fine.
And tomorrow we're having the Saturday stream, which is the big ass stream. You guys can check us out for at least 6 hours, so it's pretty cool. So stay tuned for a lot more 8.3 coverages. Class guides are gonna come pretty soon. We talked about the class balances, but you can bet your sweet little tissue will have all of the specs covered for 8.3.
All of them. There's no one escaping this shit. Everybody's done. It's covered. It's cool. Twitch.tv/MarcelianOnline. And with that, thank you so much for watching.
Have a nice weekend, everybody.
Have a great weekend, guys.
Take care.
You